There's still a ton of things that you need to do within your business to protect it from being hacked. It does protect you, obviously, from counterfeit card use, protects you from the lost and stolen piece, but it's not the end-all be-all of security. There's measures that you can put in place. You know, EMV obviously encrypting credit cards. One question I would say that you probably want to ask your processor is if they have end-to-end encryption. Very, very important to make sure that they have that. A lot of companies still don't have tokenization. There's two levels of tokenization. There's single level tokenization and multi-level tokenization. Heartland, we do both. Most people, unless you're a high, you know, multi, 50, $60 million and online, you probably don't need multi-level tokenization. Tokenization is offered to all our customers at no cost. A lot of times processors have a cost for that. So I would make sure what happens is when you get an authorization, there's a token that comes back, much like tokens in banks, that's unique just to that transaction, so it makes it virtually impossible for someone to pick up any information in between. Obviously making sure that you have the proper firewalls and everything in place. So there's still a lot of things that you need to do within your business to make sure that you're staying compliant. So I would check on tokenization. If Target had tokenization, one of the number one reasons that Target breach happened is because the processor that they were using at the time was not tokenizing, or Target chose not to pick up the tokenizing. So very important. EMV will rapidly achieve mass adoption by both credit card issuers and other businesses. We're seeing it now, obviously the big box stores. I think every big box store that I've walked into now has it, from what I can tell. They say actually this room is a little bit different, but 20 to 30% of cardholders in the US supposedly would have a chip card in their hand by October 1st. Industry experts are saying it'll take 3 to 5 years to reach full acceptance in the US, and when Europe adopted it, it actually took them much, much longer. So, like I said, that October 1st date is really a line in the sand, and there was a lot of hype and scare tactics that were put into place. And of course, when the media picks up, sometimes things get skewed, and people hear what they want to hear, and it just creates mass hysteria. So, like I said, you really have to decide as a business owner what the right steps are for you. If you don't implement EMV, you won't be able to accept credit cards. Like I said, every card will still be able to have read as a MAG stripe, so it won't shut you down. You probably know that because October 1st has come and gone. It'll run, like I said, the same from before October 1st, and I think the biggest thing is knowing that the biggest myth that I ran into with a lot of my customers is feeling that any chargeback that they had, they were going to lose now. So I think getting the truth out there about the counterfeit and the lost and stolen was a big relief for a lot of people, and then they can make the decision. Because when I've had that conversation with people, most people are like, okay, well, I'm just going to go into a wait and see mode. If I start getting a lot of lost cards or stolen cards or counterfeit cards, then maybe I'll do something. But because we don't know what that number is right now, most people, once I kind of talk them through it, their tension level goes down, and they say, well, I'm just going to go in a wait and see mode and see what it really means in my business. So, like I said, the biggest message that I can get across is this is not mandated, it's not necessary. I'm more than happy to have individual conversations with everybody about their liability. We are, and I won't even say Heartland, but processors in general, I would say are about 20% ready with point of sale companies. So there are tons of softwares that are still certifying to us to be ready for a chip and PIN, chip and signature. So we are a long ways. We only have 2 terminals right now that we've rolled out that are ready to accept chip cards. So we look at, and I think I covered this in the next one, but we look at Micros, and we look at Aloha and Focus and those different point of view, and Micros Opera. We don't have a solution. They haven't certified to us yet. Micros hasn't told us where their line is, what they're doing. We're told they're going to do some kind of gateway. Same with Aloha, that will be processor agnostic. with. The only point of sales company that we have rolled out with is Digital Dining, as far as in a restaurant operation. And that is, like many of them will be, an out-of-scope solution, where now they will have a terminal on the side, but everything still integrates and talks to each other. But a lot of people, I think one of the reasons that a lot of people are waiting is because they're worried that shortly, 2 years, whatever, we might be at chip and pin, and then the card will be taken or won't be able to be taken away from the table. So operators are, why should I spend all this money getting new equipment when in 2 to 3 years I'm going to have to get handhelds? So a lot of people are just really in that wait and see mode. They don't want to invest in equipment, just have to buy new stuff in 2 years when cards can't be. So the way, anyone been to Canada recently? We were there this summer, and so they just walk around with wireless terminals all day long, and you stick your card in, and it says, you do want to leave a cat, you know, it has a dollar sign or a percentage. You can choose what you want for the tip. And in talking to the servers up there in August, they actually, none of their stuff talks to their point of sale. So they run a server report at the end of the night, and then they just make sure it balances to what they close out in the point of sale system. So they don't even have an integration, and that's, he said that's all they know. So for them it didn't seem cumbersome, but they just bring wireless terminals to tables all day long.
They giggled at me when I had a sign.
Huh?
They kind of giggled at me when I had a sign because
Yeah.
I didn't have a pin. You have a pin?
Right, yeah, yeah. No.
Signature? Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Right, yeah, because yeah, with the pin, so transition to EMV is as simple as plugging in a new terminal. So like I said, a lot of discussions need to happen. If it's something that you're considering, your first place to start is with your point of sale company or a credit card processor. And we have a long list of processors that we're working with in development. You can only imagine all the software companies that we have to work with to try to get certified, to try to get ready. Sometimes people are like, well, October 1st is the date, and you guys are not 100% ready. Like, there's not a processor in the world. I think a lot of it was the card branch took so long to kind of say where they stood on it and what it was going to involve that, you know, development can take a year or two. So I wouldn't say, I think talking to other friends in the business, I think we're on track for where other people are. The development crew probably hates me because I call them all the time. They're like, what about this POS? What about this POS? He's like, just look at the matrix, Karen. And I'm like, I don't like to read things. I just want answers to from a human. So I just call them. They'll get tired of me, but I usually have more questions than just reading something. So it really, the conversation really starts with your point of sale system, I think, because even credit card processors, we've heard about some of the ones that are bigger than Heartland, and they say that they're ready, but from what we know, when they've rolled it in the field, it doesn't work. So I would start with your point of sale company to see what they know, because they should know who their company is in development with and what their solution may be. So that is always kind of where I steer people at first, is to have that conversation after we kind of walk through what it means to them. You do not need to worry about PCI if you use EMV. Again, we kind of talked about you still need to go through the PCI compliance scans. You still need to make sure that you're on the most compliant version of your POS system that's certified by the card brands. So it doesn't remove you from any requirements when it comes to PCI. So make sure that you, if you implement EMV, you're not thinking, well, now I don't have to worry about the PCI compliance scan and I don't have to keep up with that. Make sure if you're implementing EMV, I mean, that helps you. It actually brings your PCI compliance scan down from like 40 pages to like 8. So it does a lot to help you, but it's not the answer, and you still need to follow all the PCI requirements by the card brand. Okay, I'm not going to go an hour, but maybe with questions we will. You know, EMV to me, I think it's been, like I said, I think it's been a lot more, made a lot more complex than it really needs to be. And we still are so early in the game that there are so many questions that we don't have answers for. So with that, who has questions, or what can I help you guys with?
I just had a quick, what was that website you said?
Security Metrics, metrics spelled metrics.com. Trustwave is another company that will do it. If you use Heartland, we partner with a company called 403 Labs, and they can do a quarterly scan for you as well.
Okay.
So it's like $69 a year. It's not expensive at all. But yeah, hopefully that kind of just cleared things up, gave you a little more comfort, as I know, there's a lot of misinformation out there. I hear it every day. And I'm sure you guys get calls every day, kind of the threatening calls. It amazes me what my customers tell me. Oh no, we're never gonna sell on fear. Yeah, so people call and just say, oh, well, you have to get this new equipment. I'll lease it to you for $50 a month, and then you'll be compliant. And yeah, you guys know the game. You guys get called on all day long. I'm not oblivious to that. So, did that kind of help clear things up a little? Are there any other questions? Yeah.
Okay, you were talking with that PCI, is that just if you're connected with a POS system that runs with your?
Even if you use a terminal, you still need to be doing.
Okay.
You still need to be doing a scan, because there's things on there like if you take cardholder data over the phone, where do you store it? Is it in a locked file cabinet? What are you doing with that information? So anybody that accepts credit cards is required to do a PCI compliance scan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And where that's where we go to that website?
You could do securitymetrics.com, Trustwave. A lot of times your processor might, usually it's quite expensive, but that's why I always recommend, we don't charge for it. We always just recommend the free sites, but your processor might, that's where I have a hard time believing a processor does it for you, because there's so much info. They might know their network and that piece of it, but they sure don't know how you're holding cardholder data when they're not around. So for a processor to say, and you just see on your statement, $9.95 a month for PCI compliance, blah, 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 I have a really hard time believing that they know everything inside your business other than the piece that they're responsible for.
Did you say we're supposed to do that annually?
Yeah. Yep.
If you don't, they charge you like an extra $20.
Huh?
Remember
If you don't, they charge you like an
Yeah.
extra $20
Yeah.
a month.
So then there's something on a statement called a non-PCI compliance scan, and what that means is that you haven't shown them that scan or that piece, that certificate that you actually did it, so they'll charge you between $20 and $40 a month until you show it to them. That's my understanding, but we don't do it. I just know what it means.
Many do. Yep. We just had a customer in Blaine that still gets it.
She's paying $25 a month for non-PCI compliance, and she just assumed it was just a normal fee that she had to pay. And once we walked her through it, she's like, well, yeah, well, my POS company says they're making me compliant, and that's the whole question of, well, on their piece, but you do catering.
And when you say them, you mean my Visa statement, my
Yep.
MasterCard statement.
If you look on your credit card
Okay.
statement, you would see, I see it all day long, non-PCI compliance, and it's anywhere between $9.95 and $39.95 a month.
Okay.
Do you have to pay that fee though?
Yeah,
Or
it comes out, it's deducted monthly.
It's out of your ACH.
Yeah, just like batch fees, those are, there's so many fees that are on there that are not industry standard, but they word them that they seem industry standard, and you're like, oh, well, I have to pay that. So,
Does Heartland charge for that?
no.
was gonna
That's
say,
why I just like to
haven't-
educate.
That's why I
like,
haven't,
yeah,
kind of gone.
yeah,
Talked about
yeah,
it.
okay.
How often do you actually go around and see a lot of your accounts and that on a
Yep,
regular basis?
yep, yeah. I've been with, after 7 years, I have about 400 customers, so it gets a little tough,
Yep.
but, so many, it seems like restaurant operators too, they love text. I can get them on a text in like seconds flat, and just, that touches so much to them. Any question?
If I was the letters EMD, if I translated that into real words, what would it be?
EuroPay, MasterCard, and Visa. Yeah, back on that, you can see it. Yeah, that second screen. The next one here, James. Yep, so you can see it spelled out,
Okay.
if that helps.
So if you don't have a point of sale, you just got your little Visa processing box, that's your cash
Yep.
register.
Yep.
I know mine has a little slot that I can slide the card in on the bottom, and we've tried it and it doesn't work. Is that
Because
something that needs to be activated, or do I have to?
Well, a lot of them, a
reactivate
lot of
it?
people say, oh, I have a terminal, it looks like I can slide it in the front. Well, I don't know if, 4 or 5 years down the road, built those terminals, they were going that direction, but yeah, there's a lot of terminals we have that have a slot in the front that doesn't mean anything.
Just a cute slot.
Yeah, it's just a cute slot, yeah, just try
You
to
could
put.
put bells on it.
So, and I will give you the advice. So, a terminal like through us, we sell an EMV terminal for $199. If anyone ever mentions a lease to you, this is always my tidbit. Anyone ever mentions a lease to you and they want to lease a terminal to you for 5 years for $30 a month, run fast. Terminals are not that expensive. So an EMV ready terminal, you know, is $200. I know some of our competitors sell them for that price, or I've seen some as high as $800. But don't ever lease a terminal. You can get out of a credit card processing agreement. You can never get out of a lease. They will take you to court all day long because I've had customers that have paid $5,000 for a terminal that would have cost $200. Yeah, it's ugly. And they'll set that terminal aside and come over to Heartland and wait till, and then they don't, of course, call you up and say, guess what? It's your 5-year anniversary. You no longer have to pay that lease. They just let it keep going.
Will there be a better rate, processing rate, if
You would think so.
EMV card versus swiping it, or are they gonna be the same?
You know, interchange always adjusts in April and October. That conversation has not even come up, and I had that conversation with an attorney recently. He's like, well, now the banks aren't taking on that liability, so they should lower interchange. Obviously, interchange is something we just pass on. We don't determine interchange. That's determined by the card brands. But you know, the interchange rate, people never know this, but the issuing bank, so let's say a rewards card is 1.65%. Visa makes an additional 11 basis points, or 0.11 of that transaction. The 1.65 actually goes to the bank that issued the card. So if you have a Wells Fargo credit card in your wallet, Wells Fargo makes 1.65% every time you swipe your card all day long. Visa makes 0.11. So you would think, because the issuing banks are pulling that liability away from them, right? They shouldn't be making as much money. And I'm sure there'll be a senator, just like the Dodd-Frank bill, when the Durbin Amendment and the debit cards lowered 3 years ago. I'm hopeful that someone will pick up on that cause and say, well, hey banks, you just got out of all this liability, so it's time to lower interchange on everything else. But that comes from you guys. You know, someone's got to start that, get someone behind it, and maybe I talked to Dan about that, but, you know, and that's what happened with the debit cards 3-4 years ago. But yeah, I hear